Hello, it's Pastor Penny, and today I have a little bit of um, Presbyterian history to share with you. So, in 1848, the Presbyterian Church USA held its 60th General Assembly in Baltimore, and they adopted resolutions on temperance, church music, marriage, and slavery. Well, then there was a minority report protesting the 77,000 enslaved people by members of the church. And that it showed the fault line along which the church would rupture when the Civil War started. And it led to a future PCUSA in the north and the Presbyterian Church in the U.S., PCUS, in the south. So the PCUS held its 8th General Assembly in Baltimore in 1868, 5 years before the PCUSA hosted its second assembly there in 1873. And so the PCUSA reached out to the PCUS, and they said, our disagreements in the past are null and void, and we will not any longer condemn you. And so they eventually, they of course appointed a committee, because good Presbyterians do. And in 1888, there were discussions, committees, inquiries into how their stance on different topics, spirituality of the church, ecclesiastical boards, and black congregations. And they eventually did join together, but believe it or not until 1983. And so that's a little background with slavery thrown in there. And then in 1918, as you probably know from if you watch the news at all, there was a Spanish flu epidemic, a pandemic, where thousands and thousands died because they didn't have any way of, sort of like us, we're looking for a vaccine. They didn't have penicillin then or any other way of battling the flu. And so this is from Church of God Chronicles. Perilous times, the 1918 flu epidemic. And that man you see in the picture, L. Howard Juliet, traveled from Florida to Tennessee for the 1918 General Assembly. And then that was canceled. This says it's postponed, but they ended up canceling it on account of the influenza epidemic that is raging everywhere. The 14th Annual Assembly that was announced to convene at Harriman, Tennessee, October 30th, November 5th, is postponed indefinitely. This conclusion was reached this week while in conference with the mayor of Harriman. Try to get this information to your friends that may not read the paper. So communication was pretty basic then, and it was, now it's no problem to reach somebody, or it usually isn't, by social media or by phone. This is another reason that all of our people should read the Evangel every week. I think it's a church-related paper. No one knows now what will be next. Spend as much time in prayer as possible. More information will be given later. A.J. Tomlinson, General Overseer. So doesn't some of that sound, all these years later, 102 years later, very, very familiar? And this man traveled from Florida to Tennessee, and on his way back, he died. It doesn't say he died from the flu, but I think that's the implication. So, yeah, things were rougher then. And then there was an article that I could not get to print, but it was the 1918, it was about the 1918 flu epidemic. And it was people protesting and they thought masks were government control. Does all this sound familiar? And they were also protesting about businesses and schools and churches, and everything was closed. And so, yeah, history in this case repeats itself all these years later. And then the Civil War started, and they thought they had the flu under control, and it went up, the numbers went up again, it spiked, and they had, kind of like now, they had a whole new problem. And and after they thought it was gone. So count your blessings, I guess is. I just thought it was very interesting, something you may not have known, and we'll see you tomorrow.